What's going on, y'all? Today we got the Bracket Busters bracket. So this is going to be a bracket where I'm going to pick some of the Bracket Busters teams that I think could be making a deep run. That means maybe I'm going to have UConn lose earlier than my normal bracket. Maybe I'm going to have somebody go farther than I necessarily think they are, because we're going to go off this scenario and this specific thing that the teams that I have that are teams to watch out for as bracket busters. They're busting brackets. They're busting brackets. Stetson, they're not one of those teams. UConn wins that game. FAU Northwestern, this is a tough one. FAU returned a few of their guys from last year, obviously making that deep run. Northwestern, I really like their team, but we're gonna go with FAU here just for the sake of this. San Diego State, I don't think UAB is a bracket buster. Just not really too much here to make me really feel comfortable with UAB. Better defense from San Diego State. It's just really one of those things. Auburn, once again, don't really see Yale beating them. BYU, once again, don't see DeQuince or however you pronounce it, winning. Unfortunate. Illinois, Morehead State, pretty chalky. But here we go. Drake, I think, could win, and they're gonna make a little bit of a run here. And then we're gonna have South Dakota State win. I think this is a tricky one here. Iowa State, obviously, look, they're really solid defense. Really solid defense. But if not San Diego State, South Dakota State can get out and running, they might have a chance. So we'll go with that. Then we're going to go over here to the South. We don't need to talk about Houston. Pretty self-explanatory. And I've been saying all along, this Nebraska team, I don't know if they're an 8 seed. I think they're a really good team. Wisconsin, James Madison. James Madison's one of those teams I think could bust a lot of brackets. This is going to be their toughest matchup. I think if they get past Wisconsin, they can beat Duke or Vermont. But I think James Madison and Wisconsin are the two teams here that are going to be. One of these two teams will be in the Sweet 16, if you ask me. I think Wisconsin, obviously, they're doing really well as of late. Just lost to Illinois for the Big Ten championship, and then JMU. They've been pretty good as well. I think they could bust some brackets. And for this video, we're going to say they're busting brackets. Duke, Vermont. I kind of feel like I got to pick Vermont. I don't really have much faith in Vermont this year. I really don't. I don't like this Duke team necessarily. And in years past, I feel like I always pick Vermont to win. But this video specifically is for bracket busters, and for them always being a team that I feel like could be a bracket buster. Maybe this is the year they're going to start busting some brackets. Vermont is going to be beating Duke. I'm not a big fan of that Duke team. Texas Tech versus North Carolina State. You've probably already saw in the regular video. I'm a fan of this NC State team. I like them. I like DJ Burns. I think he can get going, and that can win them basketball games. We're going to have NC State win. I don't think Oakland wins, though. I don't think Oakland's winning. I think Colorado here. If it's Colorado, I think they could beat Florida, so we're going to go Colorado. And then this one right here is a little sketchy for me. Marquette, I think they got some good guys. They're getting Tyler Kolek back, so I think obviously they should be the favorites. But I think Western Kentucky is a sneaky team that can get a lot of points on the board. And I think with that being said, I'm going to go with Western Kentucky to get it done. Then we walk on over to the West. It doesn't matter who comes out of that first game. I think North Carolina wins that. Pretty self-explanatory. Mississippi State versus Michigan State. Not a big fan of this Mississippi State team. I'm going to be honest. They got a few guys there that are pretty solid. Other than that, though, I'm not a huge fan. I think Michigan State could be poised for a little bit of a run. We're going to have them win. Not sure if I did this in my official first bracket or whatever that came out. Because I'm starting to lean this way for what eventually will end up being my final bracket. The last, right before the tournament actually begins, there will be a video posted for my actual last. You got my initial bracket, and then you'll have my very final bracket. Like what I'm like. That is what I fully believe now, after hearing all I've heard. Grand Canyon. Something in my mind is telling me Grand Canyon is a team to watch for. So we're gonna have them there as well. Charleston, I don't see them doing it. I don't see them being bracket busters. I just don't see it. Clemson versus New Mexico. I think New Mexico could be bracket busters. Clemson, not a great team here. Maybe a little overrated here at 6. You can start putting some points on the board, New Mexico. Or not New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico, Lobos. You can get the job done. Then we get over to Baylor versus Colgate. I don't think that's going to be an upset. I'm not a big fan of the Colgate team from what I've heard, what I've seen. I think Baylor gets it done. Dayton versus Nevada. I think this could go either way. I really like this Dayton team, but Nevada, I think they also could be a little bit of a sleeper here. A little bit of a sleeper. They have some solid wins. Utah State, San Diego State, TCU, Boise State even, who's working on making it into the thing. So we're gonna give it to Nevada. They're gonna be a little bit of an upset there in the first round. But the next one, Arizona, will not be an upset. Then we got Purdue. I don't care who comes out. Purdue ain't losing to another 16 seed. I really like this matchup between Utah State and TCU. I went with TCU. I think TCU has a good chance to make a little bit of noise. But for this video, I'm going to go with Utah State. I don't know if TCU is busting brackets. So in this video, we'll just go with Utah State. But a team that might be busting brackets. How many 12 seeds did I pick? Just out of curiosity. I picked JMU. The only 12 seed that I don't think could bust a bracket is UAB. McNeese, I think they have a chance to bust some brackets. I do. I think they do. And we're going to go with that scenario here. Now, this bracket is going to turn out to be really weird and really confusing at the end because you're going to be like, why are these teams in the Elite Eight? Because I'm going with the bracket busters. I'm gonna go with them making their runs, their Cinderella stories. And Kansas, Samford, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Kansas wins. South Carolina, Oregon, I think Oregon could win that. I think Oregon has a chance to win it, and I think they could bust some brackets. Creighton versus Akron. I don't think Akron's getting it done. Creighton going to go ahead and win that one. Texas versus UVA, who I assume will come out. I'll still pick Texas and Mac A. Smith. And then, obviously, St. Peter's is not busting any more brackets. Their time is done as bracket busters. And then we get to this game here, and it's still going to be UConn. I don't think FAU's busting brackets like that. And then it's going to be Auburn, because I don't think San Diego State's all that great. And then I'm actually going to, I know I'm an Illinois fan, I'm going BYU here. And then in this matchup, we're actually taking South Dakota State to play BYU. And then over here, we are going to say, I know everybody loves Houston, and this is not me saying Houston will lose to Nebraska. I think Nebraska could make some noise, and in this video specifically, we're busting brackets. Nebraska is busting the bracket, and they're winning against Houston. You never know. Maybe this is right, because nobody knows. When stuff gets, just randomness happens in March, and that's what we're doing here. James Madison versus Vermont. Give me the JMU Dukes. I like them there. Then we got NC State versus Kentucky. I don't even care if they're not busting brackets. I think NC State could beat Kentucky regardless if they're busting a bracket or not. I'm going with NC State. We got Colorado, who I think will win against Western Kentucky. I'm going Colorado. That Western Kentucky, they're not busting brackets like that. North Carolina versus Michigan State. Michigan State, I'm going to have them make some noise. One of these number one seeds got to drop. Obviously, we had Nebraska beat one. We'll have Michigan State beat one. Grand Canyon versus Alabama. This is going to be a good game if it happens. Alabama, we'll say they go through their slump. Obviously, not a great defense. Grand Canyon wins. Then we get New Mexico versus Baylor. Once again, I think New Mexico has a chance to bust some brackets and maybe make it to that second weekend. We'll have them beat Baylor. Then Nevada versus Arizona. I don't see it happening. I don't really see it happening. Then we get to Purdue versus Utah State. Purdue's winning. Purdue's winning. They're making it to the second weekend. They just came off of their loss. I don't care if it's a bracket busting video or not. Purdue's winning. McNeese versus Kansas. Do we look at McNeese and say Shahada Wells? We're gonna go with them. Look what they've done. Nothing too crazy. I mean, they beat Michigan. They beat UAB, who's in the tournament. Are we impressed with McNeese? Probably not. I'm going with Kansas. It's unfortunate I'm not going to have McNeese bust the bracket all the way like some of the other teams. Then we get Oregon versus Creighton. I think Oregon has a chance to make it to the Sweet 16. Creighton's going to be a difficult matchup for a lot of teams, but I think they're susceptible for a loss maybe, and Oregon could be the team to bust some brackets there. And then we get Texas versus Tennessee. I don't see it happening. So then we get to what is the Elite Eight. No, the Sweet 16. We're in the Sweet 16 now. UConn versus Auburn. I don't know if UConn can run it back-to-back, so we're going to go with Auburn. And BYU, because I think South Dakota State, I think that's where their bracket busting ends. So we get there. So I'm just going off of if somebody's going to bust a bracket, how far are they getting? That's about as far as I see South Dakota State getting to the Sweet 16. I don't see them in the Elite Eight. Nebraska versus James Madison. I got Nebraska. And then NC State versus Colorado. I think Colorado wins that game. And we come down here, Michigan State versus Grand Canyon. I think Michigan State would win that game. And New Mexico versus Arizona. Arizona, one of the few high seeds to make it all the way through. Purdue versus Kansas. We're going to have Purdue win it. I don't think Kansas is going to win. They're going to have an answer for Zach Edey. And then Oregon, Tennessee. I think that's probably the end of Dana Altman's crew there at Oregon. Then Arizona versus Michigan State here in the Elite Eight. I'm going Michigan State. Purdue, Tennessee. I'm going Tennessee. So 2 of our spots are punched there for the Final Four. And then we come up here, BYU, Auburn. I'm actually going to go BYU, believe it or not. BYU, yes, BYU is going to be in the Final Four. They're a really good team, but as a 6 seed, it might look a little weird, but I think their ceiling could be there. Nebraska, Colorado. Who do we got going to the Final Four? It's going to be Nebraska and Tominaga getting there. Like I said, we're here busting brackets. We're not here to get the perfect bracket in this video. We're just here to bust some brackets. And with brackets being busted, BYU versus Michigan State. I don't think it's Michigan State. I think it would be BYU making it all the way to the national championship. The Nebraska versus Tennessee. I think Tennessee would win that one. And ultimately, Tennessee would be your champions. And I think we would give them 100 and let's say 21 total points. So that is going to be the bracket there. Tennessee, congratulations. You have won the bracket buster bracket. That's what we're going to call this, the bracket buster bracket. Try to see what happens. Just complete randomness, complete chaos happened, and that's what we came up with, is Tennessee winning it all.